What's up, kids? This is Matt with GearZombie.com, and we are going to talk today about guitar tone, like how to record guitar tone, the types of techniques you should look at. I kind of want to specifically talk about the sort of technique you go through when recording. Why am I starting this video outside on a really cruddy Midwestern nasty day, rainy, snow melty? Well, it's very simple. I've been tasked with smoking pork shoulders. Ooh, look at that right there. But enough of that. You don't want to talk about barbecue, which you should, because when a fat guy talks to you about barbecue, you should probably listen. Because I do a lot of YouTube videos around gear and technique, I get blasted a lot in comments. Some of them are baseless, some of them you do a shit video and it happens, right? One common theme that I see with tons and tons of people is talking about double tracking guitars. I couldn't tell you how many comments I have read where people will talk about not double tracking guitars, but rather copying and pasting, laying out track A and copying and pasting track A to track B and panning it, and that is how you double your guitars. Now, there are very few things that I will tell anybody, especially when doing audio production, that you absolutely should not do, but that would be one of them. Unless for some reason that is the desired effect you are going for, which is just simply copying and pasting. Now, the arguments that you'll see from people are intense. They're ridiculous. There are people that absolutely swear by doing it this way. And then they even go so far as to describe ways that they can go about trying to make it not sound like it's double tracked, or not sound like it's copy and pasted, rather. All the way from on your second track, you can go into it and shift it so it's just, you know, milliseconds off of the other one. No, that's not going to work. Talk about putting an exciter on. No, that's not going to work. I've seen people talk about putting delays or putting different delays on different tracks to try to separate them. No, it's not going to work. And let me explain to you the theory on why this doesn't work. And I'm actually going to, we'll do some tracking here in the second half of this video, or maybe we'll do a part 2 of the video. So this will be the talky part of the video. The one thing that I will say, to me, is one of the few absolutes is if you want double tracked big sounding guitars, you have to double track your guitars. You have to manually record track A and then manually record track B. Now, how you go about that, that's there's a million different ways you can do that. Some people will use completely different amps for track A and track B, different amps, different guitars, so that you get different tones. I've talked before about how I used to play in a band with a guy that used a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier Road King. And with that Road King, he always had it dialed in so it was, you know, sort of scooped. And Mesas, in general, if you're using anything in the rectifier line, is inherently scooped. That's kind of what they do, right? I always played PV at the time. I played 6505 pluses. Being an old fella coming from the block letter 5150s, I love that sound. It's I love that kind of Fender-esque or Soldano, you know, that family, mid-rangey, barky type of tone. My guitar sat in the mix in the middle of his scoop, so it would round out. So he had all the bottom, I had all the mid-range, and people will approach tracking their guitars in the same way. Maybe one guy wants to use a Mesa and another wants to use a PV. Maybe one wants to use an Engel, one wants to use a Marshall. You know, they'll EQ them different, or they'll record them with the exact same rig and then shift the EQ afterwards, maybe dropping some of the mid-highs out of one and adding some mid-highs in another to give it a little bit more space. But either way, you're recording two different guitars layered and you're panning them right and left. When you stack the exact same guitar track, when you take guitar track 1, copy and paste to guitar track 2, the only thing that you are doing is you're making that louder. You're not doing anything as far as your bigness goes. You can stack all day long, and you're just going to get a big block of blah. It's because of this. It's because the sonic differences, the nuances, when you play, you are never going to play a guitar track exactly the same 2 times. Never ever going to happen. Same with vocal tracks. People approach vocal layering the same way. You get the best singer on the planet, he is never going to sing the exact same line the same way 2 times. So you double track that, and maybe for vocals you'll look at it differently. Maybe for vocals you have one track up front more in your face, and you have your layers in behind to fill it out and give it some texture. But either way, it's the same thing. I can't copy and paste vocal tracks unless I'm doing so for effect, right? Maybe I want to copy and paste and put a warble or something on when I want to do something special. But for my bass vocal line, putting those together and just copying and pasting is not going to give you the desired multi-track effect. And it's not going to happen with guitars. There's just no way around it. No matter how much you see people argue, don't buy into that. And here's the thing, why would you want to buy into that? If you can track it once and you can make it sound good one time, why would you not track it a second time and make it sound good that way? Now, as far as tracking guitars, people can get pretty crazy with how many tracks they want to layer. For most of my stuff, I simply do a right and a left, and that's for my rhythm guitar tracks. So I have a tendency to want more than just a right and a left guitar track. Maybe I want a melodic line, an octavey melodic line. That I will run maybe more up the middle, maybe then just kind of shift it off to a side. I try to leave that center, the wide up the middle, or right up the middle, I try to leave that open primarily for vocals, because what I do, I don't have a vocalist very often. It gives me the ability to throw whatever I want wherever I want, right? I don't have to be real cognizant of where the non-existent vocalist is going to go. If I'm going to put a melodic, some sort of a melodic line, it goes more up the middle, and then I'll lean it one way or another. When I record a lead line, I also pan that off of center one way or another, and maybe give it a little more volume. And what that does is it still leaves the center kind of open, and by offsetting it one way or the other, I find what it makes it more audible. When I have it straight up the middle and I'm fighting drums and bass and everything, I find myself having to gas my lead lines a little harder than if I just kind of shifted it off of center a little bit. And by shifting it off of center and putting the focus one way or the other, it actually makes it more audible all the way around. I don't know the science about that, and if I tried to explain it to you, it would be total bro science. Most of what I do is total bro science, but I assume if you're watching this, you're not, working at a multi-million-dollar studio tracking guitars. You're probably in your basement trying to find a way to get better sound. Do not copy and paste your guitar tracks. Take the time, record the second track, pan them right and left, get the volumes about equal, and this isn't just for rock or metal. You go punk, power, pop, princess pop, pony pop, I don't care, whatever the genre is. I'm too old to keep track of genres. Harder stuff, hard rock, softer stuff, either way, double tracking your guitars is the way to go. Got a link to part 2, and part 2 will link right here. We're actually going to sit down with a DAW, we're going to track some guitar parts with some drums, and we're going to show you what the audible difference is between double tracking your guitars and copying and pasting your guitars. If anything I said helped you out, hit subscribe, hit the like button, share it out, give it to your mom, give her my number, because I'm lonely. I sat in my basement. You've seen my basement. I just sit down there by myself and noodly. Tune in for part 2, GearZombie.com.